Did you know that your food forest can fertilize itself without buying any store-bought products? Behind me are autumn olive trees, and we didn't plant these, and I'm not recommending that you do because they are highly invasive, but they are nitrogen fixers, and so there is some silver lining to them growing on the property here. Today, I'm going to show you the best nitrogen fixers for every layer of your food forest, and not ones that are going to be invasive like this. And I've got my handy dandy list with me so that I don't miss a single one. So if you see me looking down, that's what I'm reading. I don't want to miss a single thing for you in this video. I'm not only going to show you which ones are great to plant in your garden, but I'm going to show you how to manage them and how to access that nitrogen so that it goes straight into the soil and into your fruit trees and your berry bushes and everything that's going to feed you so that your soil can stay healthy even without commercial fertilizers. This is probably one of the most important parts of your food forest because without nitrogen fixing, your food forest will start productive and then slowly become less and less productive as the years go on. But if you get this nitrogen fixer part right, you're going to have a flourishing food forest year after year that even gets more productive as it grows. Nitrogen fixation is when plants work with bacteria in their roots to take the nitrogen gases in the air and turn it into a form that plants can use in the soil. It's like these plants are creating their own fertilizer and then sharing it with their neighbors. And this is so important because this is going to make you less dependent on commercial fertilizers. It's going to improve the health of your soil over time, and it's going to make your food forest so much more productive. But before we go through the list of all the plants for the different layers that you can plant, we need to clear up something important. How does the nitrogen get from the roots of the plants into the soil? Because a lot of people think all you do is grow those plants and that's all you'll need to do. That nitrogen becomes accessible to the other plants. So I'll see often in vegetable gardens, people will plant things like peas next to their tomatoes thinking, look, the peas are fertilizing the tomatoes, and they're not. They're really, really not. In fact, the peas are using that nitrogen for themselves and not giving it to their neighbors. So we need to know how to access that nitrogen and get it released into the soil instead of being used up by those nitrogen fixers themselves. So most nitrogen isn't just released into the soil through the roots. A lot of it is stored in the leaves, in the stems, and the roots of the plants themselves that are gathering it. So ways that you can access it are chop and drop, where you take the branches or the leaves off of the plant that's growing and drop it onto the ground so that it can decompose into the soil. Other ways is you can prune your branches or your plants, and the dieback of the roots that comes with cutting off major parts of the plant itself will release those nodules that are on the roots into the soil as well. So let's say you're growing those peas by the tomatoes. If you cut back the peas down to the ground, now all that root system is going to decompose into the soil, and then you'll have access to that nitrogen. Or annuals that grow throughout the year. In the summer, they gather all that nitrogen, and then as they die back in the fall and the winter, that's when the nitrogen gets released. So nitrogen plants are like living nitrogen factories, but you need to manage them. You need to mow them or prune them or cut them back at the right times in order to make sure that you get access to that precious, beautiful nitrogen for your food forest. Now, as I read this list off to you of all the different nitrogen fixing plants that you can put in your food forest, I'm going to talk about a lot of them, and a lot of these are going to be considered invasive. And the reason why so many nitrogen fixers are considered invasive is because nitrogen fixers are the healers, the band-aids of the natural world. Their ecological role is to rush into poor, damaged soils, fill it with themselves, and then fix that soil. And then if they're in their natural environment where there's other plants or insects or anything part of that ecosystem that is designed for that ecosystem, they're going to come in and they're going to make those die back appropriately. And then the other plants that now see the rich soil and need that rich soil are going to come in and take their place. So a lot of them can be considered invasive because you're planting them from another area that is not your zone or your country even, and they will cover the area and they'll take over, but there's no natural succession to them. They're just brand new, and so there's no system locked in that's going to take care of them and make sure that they're kept in check. Now, this doesn't mean that we need to avoid them all. There are some that are really well behaved. Some of these I just want you to know about because people are going to say, hey, look, it's a nitrogen fixer, and you might see it on some lists, but I also want you to know, don't plant these because it's going to ruin everything. But I also am making sure that I hit a lot and almost every of the very hard-hitting, manageable ones that won't take over your garden or your food forest. I've got to keep walking while I make this because I've got my little girl sleeping on my back and she's teething right now, and if I stop walking, she's not going to be a happy camper. So, okay, I'm going to go over the list now. This is for the 7 layers of the food forest, which is canopy, subcanopy, shrub layer, herbaceous layer, ground cover, and the root system, right? But also, don't forget, there's that bonus layer of fungi, but we're not going to go over that today. So, we're starting with the canopy, and black locust is a really good nitrogen fixer. Now, it's not so invasive that you have to never plant it, but it is one that you're going to have to manage because it will like to spread on its own, but it is native, so it's okay. But just be sure that you're being aware that there's going to be little seedlings that pop up here and there, and you're going to have to take care of them if you don't want your whole food forest to become black locust. When you want to access the nitrogen, you've got to do the chop and drop. But it grows back quickly and it suckers, and black locust does not rot. So it's an awesome permaculture plant that a lot of people like to grow because it's a great way to access fence posts or other things, garden edging that won't rot. It doesn't rot, it lasts forever. All the old fence posts that you see along homesteads that are hundreds of years old that still have that wood fence railing sticking up, it's probably black locust. Okay, alders, and that includes the Italian alder. So these are trees, right, because we're talking about the canopy, and these are very well behaved. You don't have to worry about these taking over or anything like that. And you're going to enrich the soil via their root nodules, okay? So you're going to prune this back a lot, and they're going to release all that nitrogen into the soil. They'll grow more, you prune it back again, you'll get all that nitrogen, and it'll just keep refreshing over and over and over again. The alders are the actinorhizal bacteria accessors. So you have to have Frankia bacteria in the soil in order to access this nitrogen. And I'll go over later in this video how to make sure you have the right bacteria in your soil in order to access the nitrogen from the different types of nitrogen fixers that you're going to plant. Okay, another one is a mimosa tree, and that is also known as a silk tree. That is very invasive, and you're going to want to practice growing this with high caution. I do have one in my garden. I didn't plant it, it's just there. I did plant an Illinois bundle tree, and they look very similar, and so it's actually in the same spot that I planted it. So I thought I was growing the Illinois bundle tree, but no, it's a mimosa. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let it grow until it starts producing flowers. When I see those buds appear, I'm going to cut it back completely, and it will not grow again, and then I'll not have to worry about it spreading everywhere, but I will get the benefit of all those root nodules decomposing in my soil then and giving me nitrogen. Okay, as far as our sub-canopy, we've got, I'm so thankful for this list. Thank goodness I made this list. We've got sea buckthorn, and I have a few of these growing. If you want to get the berries, which are crazy rich in vitamin C, very, very, very good for you, you're going to want to plant a male and a female species of this. I do want the berries, and I am willing to manage it because this is one that requires managing, but it is not one of those highly invasive do not plant ones. So I just got to keep my eye on this one. It suckers aggressively, and it enriches your soil via pruning debris. So you're going to want to prune this back and leave the branches on the ground to decompose, or you can throw it in your compost bin, but it's a food forest. So what we're going to do is just chop it and drop it and leave it, and then we don't have to worry about hauling compost back and forth. You're building the mulch up on your forest floor, and it's adding nitrogen to the soil. So many easy things right there. Let's not make it difficult. Another one that you have to manage is the Siberian pea shrub, and you're going to want it to chop those prunings and divide it so that it becomes like a nitrogen-rich mulch. Those are really good if you have it up against where you have poultry or something like that, because the poultry like to eat the peas that fall from it, and it's very good for them. It's very healthy. So you can't eat it. It's not something that is really good for humans, but the poultry are going to love it. Pigs, if you got those, they're going to love it as well. Okay, so here are some really well-behaved ones. We've got the buffalo berry. The prunings provide mulch, but it also gives us steady nitrogen. Gualmi is also going to be something that fixes the nitrogen. It's chop and drop friendly, and it produces edible berries that I think are delicious. And then bayberry, or the northern wax myrtle. Okay, so this is safe. It improves sandy soils and enriches via the roots and pruning. You're not going to want to eat these berries though. And then the autumn olive, which is on the no-go zone, but if you have it already, the berries are edible. Go ahead and eat those berries. They're delicious. Definitely tart, but delicious, and you can make awesome jams out of it. And every time you make jam, those are seeds that won't be spread by birds. Okay, so on to the shrub layer. We have got lead plant, which is a native. It's deep rooted, which is excellent. It's going to draw up those nutrients and minerals from deep in the ground that some of your shallower rooted plants won't be able to get to. And then the nitrogen is released via chop and drop. You just want to prune it lightly. Okay, so also we've got New Jersey tea, which is one of those actinorizals, and it's going to give nitrogen through the root nodules, and then the leaf litter can enrich the soil as well. So that's really low maintenance. And then you get tea from it as well. The New Jersey tea bush is where you can get tea. So, and just depending on when you harvest it, you're going to either get white, red, or black tea. Sweet fern is also in the shrub section, and that's an actinorizal as well. It thrives in sandy soils and enriches directly, so you don't even have to prune that one. You just let it be, and it's just going to keep feeding those plants next to it. On the ones that you want to be careful of, definitely false indigo bush, although I love it, so I'm willing to put in the work for the false indigo bush. It releases nitrogen through chop and drop. Silverberry, now this is like the autumn olive, but it spreads, it doesn't take over quite like the autumn olive does. Okay, silverberry is a lot more well behaved. And then bush clovers, okay? So those are going to be more of a mowing or a chop and drop situation, and they reseed heavily. So you want to be careful of when you chop and drop them, and just be really timely with when you do that, otherwise it will take over. On that shrub layer, the one that you really want to watch out for is Scotch broom or gorse. That's very invasive. Please avoid planting this one if you can. We have got a ton for the herbaceous layer. This is where we really start to see nitrogen fixtures shine, okay? So these are going to be all the really well-behaved ones. Alfalfa is deep-rooted. It's great for chop and drop compost. It's red clover. It fixes it while it's alive. Also, nitrogen is released when it's chopped. Sawyer is always in the background, isn't he? Hey, Sawyer. He's such a good kitty. He goes on walks with me too. White clover is a living mulch, so it fixes while it's growing. And then the cuttings add nitrogen as well, so you're going to want to chop and drop those. Crimson clover, you're also looking at, let's see. Oh, specifically with the crimson clover, make sure you chop that at bloom time. That's when it's going to release the most nitrogen. Bird's foot trefoil. is a living mulch, mow or chop for fertility, okay? And then blue false indigo, a Baptista, right? Long-lived, and it enriches the soil via the roots and through mulch. Okay, so here are the ones that you gotta watch out for. Sweet clovers, they're biennial and they're very prolific seeders, so they're definitely something that might take over if you're not careful. Lupines, I disagree with this one. I don't think that lupines are something that you have to worry about too much. Has anybody ever been upset about that? And they're native. I wouldn't put lupine on the watch out or caution list. I've never had them take over my garden, and they're beautiful. And if they did, what a beautiful world that would be, right? One of my friends sent me the book, Miss Rumphius, I believe. And I believe she's my soul sister. I love that lady. Okay, anyway. Lupines, blue false indigo. No, we already talked about that. Vetches. Okay, so they fix really well, but you want to chop and drop at maturity because they reseed really quickly. And so you want to be careful that you're not just starting this cycle of vetch over and over and over again. Okay, so ground cover, we've got the white micro clover, which is a constant living mulch, okay? So that's really, really good to have. You want to mow or chop that back for release. It's not just going to give it on its own, you have to release that nitrogen. Strawberry clover is the same benefits as the white clover, and then subterranean clover is a reseeding annual, and the chop is what enriches the soil. That's pretty much all clovers, right? And those are all very safe, very well behaved plants. Black medic is the one that you gotta kind of watch out for. It spreads readily, and you have to mow it in order for the nitrogen to release. So maybe watch out for that a little bit. Okay, on to the vines. Now remember, you're gonna wanna plant a nitrogen fixer from each of these layers in order to make sure that you're getting the whole beneficial round of nitrogen hitting your soil every year, right? Groundnut has edible tubers. I love my groundnut. It's really well behaved. You can chop the vines to add nitrogen mulch, and once it's really established, it will come back. Runner beans are really great. Those are annual. So after you grow them and all of the hummingbirds have had their feast on them, they will die back completely. You don't have to do anything, and you may even get them to come back just by the seeds that they drop, which is great, but they're not going to take over your garden. Cow pea is really good. You chop that after the harvest. Hyacinth bean is one that you're going to have to watch out for a little bit. It's a vigorous annual. It will grow like crazy, but I love it. It's beautiful. It's purple. When you chop it, that's when the fertility gets added into the soil. American wisteria. There is the Chinese version of wisteria, and that's the one that you see growing on the sides of the road that are killing all these trees that are really bad. The American one is native, and it does not spread nearly like the wisteria from China. And so growing the American wisteria is much better. And it definitely adds nitrogen to the soil with leaf litter and if you chop and drop it. And then Asian wisteria or Asian kudzu, they are extremely invasive. Don't ever plant these, okay? So never plant Chinese wisteria, never plant kudzu. Okay, groundnut also counts as the root layer as well, okay? So let's do that as well. But we already talked about that. Tuberous pea, that is a roots fitting nitrogen. Oh my goodness, I can't say it all of a sudden. What's weird? Anyway, when you chop that down, that's when the soil fertility goes up. And then peanuts. And the benefit with that is you get peanuts. Anyway, those are grown as annual. You don't have to worry about anything with that. You can even just leave them in the ground, and you won't get the peanuts then, but the roots are the thing that are going to enrich the soil with that. So those are all, the root layers are all very gentle with your garden, so you don't have to worry about them being invasive at all. And that is the list for the 7 layers. Those are the best nitrogen fixers. Those are the ones that you want to stay away from, and those are the ones that you want to watch out for. Okay, so how you want to use them. So in your guild, 10 to 30%, let's aim for that, to be a nitrogen fixing plant. Now, comfrey is not necessarily like a nitrogen fixing plant, but it does rebuild the fertility of your soil. So comfrey is fertilizer in itself, but it's a little bit different than a nitrogen fixer. And then with these, you're going to want to go in and you're just going to want to chop them regularly and just lay them on the ground. And this is also going to add mulch to your soil, so you don't have to worry about weeds popping up as much. And that's going to protect your trees as well, because there will be less competition with plants that you don't want. Okay, so here are the mistakes that we see a lot with planting nitrogen fixers, and that would be planting too many of the ones that you really need to keep an eye on. Be very sparing with those, otherwise it can overwhelm you. Or planting a bunch of the invasive ones. You're gonna go wrong. It's not gonna go right. I promise you, it's gonna go wrong. You get sick and you can't get out there. You go on vacation, you can't get out there. You miss one time of trying to handle or manage these and it's all over. You can also go wrong by just not pruning things back. And so all of this nitrogen is being sucked up into the nitrogen fixers and it's not being released. So make sure you're going in and cutting it back often. And then assuming that they're going to fix the nitrogen in the soil without inoculation. So let's talk about inoculation. In order for the soil to access the nitrogen from these roots or the leaves or whatever it is that we're growing, you need to have the proper bacteria in your soil. So if you are planting legumes, you're going to want to have rhizobium. I'm going to put the word right here because I'm not good at pronouncing these words. But anyway, so this right here, you're going to want to buy inoculants for your soil for that. And you can just go to any garden store and they will have a inoculant for your soil. You just spread it out a little bit. Once it's in your soil, it will spread rapidly. The thing that really helps jumpstart that is if you spray your seeds a little bit with water and then roll them in the inoculant before planting, then you're good to go. That's going to be like the perfect way to handle that. So your actinorhizal plants, those are the ones that you're going to have a little bit more trouble with. Your alders, your buckthorn, those type of plants, okay? Those need Frankia. And Frankia is something that you need to get from, you can't buy it in the store really. You need to either get it from a nitrogen fixing plant that is already an actinorhizal. So you find one that is fully grown and mature. Maybe in the forest you can find one. If you don't have any in the area of where you live, then maybe you can go to a plant store, and if you find one of these plants that we're talking about in the soil of that plant in the pot, is probably going to have that bacteria. And so you grab handfuls of that soil from that pot and then you kind of spread it where you're going to be growing these plants, and that will give you the bacteria that you need in order to access the nitrogen for the rest of your garden. Okay, so once you get that bacteria in, the whatever it's called, that word again, right? And then the Frankia, then you're going to be able to feed the rest of your friends in the forest. Okay, so it won't just be those plants, it'll be every plant in your food forest or your garden. So how do you know if it's working? You can dig up one of your plants, one of your nitrogen fixers, whichever one that you're trying to check to see if you have that correct bacteria in the soil for it, and check the nodules on the roots. If they're kind of like a pinkish reddish, then you've got the bacteria and you're doing great. If they're pure white, you don't, and you're going to need to activate that soil. Okay, this has been kind of a long video. I'm sorry, guys. Thank you for sticking with me. And if you've stuck around this long, comment nitrogen fixers in the comments below or something like that, or give me a thumbs up. I appreciate it so much. So basically, nitrogen fixers are the soil healers of your food forest. They are absolutely necessary. You have to have them. what nitrogen fixers do you think you're going to grow in your food forest? I'd really like to know, do you have anything that's not on the list that I said? And if you do, let me know, because I want to know. And in our next video, I'm so excited. The next video in this lineup of our food forest series is going to be the top plants to plant in each food forest layer for food. So that's that, guys. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for sticking around with me, and stay blessed.